And I have updates for you on the numbers, by the way. Since June 6th, there have been 330 illegal aliens that have been arrested as part of these riots in Los Angeles. 113 of those illegal aliens had prior criminal convictions. And overall, and this includes arrests of American citizens, there's been 157 people arrested for assault and obstruction-related charges, including the attempted murder of a police officer with a Molotov cocktail. So who is funding these illegal aliens who are coming in with this very professional riot gear? It's a question everyone in this room who cares about truth should be asking. And we encourage your help in trying to get to the bottom of that question. Indina.
Thank you, Caroline. About Elon Musk, he issued an apology.
I couldn't disagree more with what Gavin Newsom said. You need a I live under Gavin Newsom. I don't know how many people. I live under Gavin Newsom today over the last, 6 years. And I think we need to fact check his speech, to be very sincerely, because if you look at what he's done in California, he got the biggest surplus. It's gone. I mean, I can go down the fire hydrants even have water in them. I can go on and on and on. He's trying to differentiate himself from other candidates. He's running for president. At the end of the day, Abby, all I can say is that we had 11 million people that came into America illegally. We don't know who they are. We don't know where they came from. There's a lot of them in California. Californians, I haven't had anybody come up to me and say, hey, get the National Guard out of here. Nobody in California is saying that. They want to be safe. And to have President Trump send the National Guard, at the end of the day, it's a message that he didn't trust. He didn't trust Karen Bass, and he didn't trust Gavin Newsom to operate independently and to protect his troops, ICE agents, federal buildings, and so forth. So he did what he had to do. And I think Californians support that, to be very sincere, Abby. Angelenos support that. I don't hear anybody saying, get out of here.
Hey, that's true. You don't hear anyone in California saying, I want the National Guard out of here. I want the Marines out of here. And the guy you saw in the intro, he was a former lieutenant governor. He's a Republican, by the way, so just have to factor that in. And I believe what he's saying is true. If you look at polls, many Americans across the nation support Donald Trump deploying the National Guard. And I don't think it's politics. It's due to trust. Donald Trump didn't trust Gavin Newsom to maintain order in his own state, to protect his federal agents, to protect his federal buildings. And that's why he sent the National Guard. It's not just politics. And I think one of the clips that really really frames a picture about how much Trump don't trust these people to defend the federal buildings is commentary like this from Mayor Bass.
A week ago, everything was peaceful in the city of Los Angeles and in all of the representatives behind me in their cities as well. Things began to be difficult on Friday when raids took place, and it's important that I begin there because that is the cause of the problems that have happened in the city of Los Angeles and other cities. This was provoked by the White House. The reason why, we don't know. A week ago.
So you heard that correctly, right? You heard that correctly. Like this is where the ridiculousness of the Democratic Party gets shown in full color. This is what happens when you live in a state where your party dominates so much that a teacup can win an election over a Republican, over a live human being. A teacup with a D next to it will win an election in California compared to a live human being. Make it make sense. Looting of Nike stores was reported by the White House. The White House, what? Enforcing its border law. This is what she's saying is provoking these people to attack. Like, make that make sense. So if a guy steals from me and he goes to jail, and let's say I pick him up because they found out he's an illegal, these people will protest and riot in the street because he's going to get deported, because the federal agents are trying to enforce the border. That makes a lot of sense to me, actually. For a Democrat, that makes a lot of sense. And this is the problem that Democrats are starting to find themselves in, and why many people are walking away from their party. Because here's the walkaway campaign, right? I think many people are familiar with this movement. It was something that started around 2015, 2016, around when Trump was running. I like the border. I just don't like the idea of someone coming over here illegally and getting benefits that serve my community. So that's the reason I support him on the border. This is what every American, regardless of your skin color, regardless of your race, should agree to. We all are American. These benefits are supposed to serve the American community, and illegals shouldn't be able to benefit from it. But you find time and time again, Democrats, they create loopholes, they create circumstances in which they allow illegals, foreign people who have no allegiance to our country, don't even have the respect to learn our language, to fully assimilate in our country. They want them to get voting power in our country. Make it make sense. And their presence is being used as a political pawn to increase and give Democrat cities more leverage. Like it make this is the end game of the Democratic Party. And then they're gonna sit here and pretend, oh, we're so moral, we're so virtuous, we're just trying to look out for people. And this is a reality that the Democrats don't want to acknowledge, that Donald Trump has the fewest deportation, but the most court blocks. Make that make sense. You can't make that make sense. And this is where Democrats start, the Democratic apologists, the fake pro-blacks, the pro-Democrat blacks. This is where they start running into trouble. Trump deported fewer people than any recent president by millions. Clinton oversaw 12.3 million deportation with zero injunctions. Zero. Bush followed with 10.3 with also none. Obama had 5.3 to go and still no legal interference. Trump, just 100,000 deportations, but courts stepped in 30 times. More court fights, fewer removals. The numbers say it all. And, CNN had a little debate about this, and I will play the clip for you right now.
Blown and overgrown, and people get excited and because it's Donald J. Trump.
What's overblown?
What I'm saying is people just get excited and they get so much anger because it's Donald J. Trump. Donald J. Trump in his first term deported 1.5 million people. So far, he has deported 160,000 people since he became president again. Barack Obama deported 5.3 million people.
Yeah,
in 8 years.
I totally take your point.
But it's because it's Donald J. Trump. If it was Barack Obama, it's okay.
But no, not just that. I think to Karen's point, she's making a point about the tactics here. And I think I agree with you in one sense. The Trump administration finds outrage extremely useful. That's one of the reasons why, for example, DHS posted this on X today. It's a poster that says, "Help your country and yourself. Report all foreign invaders." They are trying to get a rise out of people. However, the tactics are different. The numbers are different. 23% of all arrests are non-criminals. That is way more than it normally is.
And Abel, I think it's just flat out wrong here in that comparison. I see a lot of people make that comparison. You didn't have Barack Obama's DHS secretary playing action hero on the streets with the DHS, and then tweeting about it. We weren't sending people to El Salvador, right? And you weren't evading legitimate court orders. We're opening Guantanamo Bay next week to house illegal immigrants.
5 million people.
But yeah, I hear you.
Yes.
And he was the deporter. He got the name deporter in chief for a reason.
Yep.
But you brought up.
Okay.
But you brought up.
No,
I'm saying that it's different. And I'm also saying this. I'm saying what you're highlighting is that on the watch of Democrats under Barack Obama and now Republicans, you have a broken immigration system.
Completely.
But the fact.
Yeah, these Democrat apologists, they struggling right now. They're struggling. When you drop that, Obama dropped 5 million, deported 5.3 million people, they got nothing to say. They're like, damn, we can't complain about this. And it's this dehumanization of Trump, honestly, I think is the core reason behind this. And I think the guy was right and is spot on in his initial analysis, is that these people just get excited to go against Trump. And their excitement to go against Trump leads them to have positions where it's not favorable to them. It's not favorable to the Democratic Party, right? Here's Wesley Hunt, congressman for the Republicans in Texas. If you notice, Democrats aren't talking about egg prices anymore. They aren't talking about inflation anymore. They aren't talking about tariffs anymore. They aren't talking about the stock market anymore. They aren't talking about the border anymore. So now they're planning demonstrations to fight authoritarianism. But why? Because Trump solved every single one of these issues in 5 months. They have ran out of ammunition. And I think this is one of the reasons why they're protesting, 5 nights in a row, 6 nights in a row. And it's so baffling to me that, a lot of people, they don't understand the real threat that allowing open borders in our country does. And I did a video on it about how it affects every group. Every race of American, this affects you. Some more than others, right? And I want to play this interesting clip that I found online about some of the things that you deal with online, right? You got these liberals that come out here trying to fact check you, but they themselves don't properly understand how the actual system works. But they're looking at you crazy for making statements about illegals. I'm gonna show my guy Jeffrey Mild. I hope I say his always mess up last names. That's my Achilles heel here. But he's gonna attempt. He's getting fact checked by some black Democrat, and you're gonna see how different they present the information. And to me, I'll ask you a question in the comment section: who comes across more credible? Let's take a look.
But here's the thing: the census doesn't only count citizens or people here legally. It counts all people in the states. So by California allowing millions and millions of illegal people to stay in their state, they actually increase their census numbers, which then increases the amount of representatives that they have in the House, which means they have more electoral votes and they have more representatives in the House.
Lock in. We about to fact check this. What the hell did you just say? That is not how the House of Representatives work. This man just says that if California allows more undocumented migrants to enter the country, this will increase the amount of House of Representatives they will have, which will take over the country. Yeah, that's not true. And the biggest reason is because in 1929, there is a law that basically states the House cannot have more than 435 seats, meaning you cannot add more seats into the House of Representatives, no matter if there's an increase of population.
All right, it's time to dismantle this room temperature IQ take. So tell me you don't understand percentages and apportionment without telling me you don't understand percentages and apportionment. He's right. They do not increase the number of representatives in the House to more than 435. It's going to stay there. But then after that, he goes on to say this.
Also, the amount of representatives in each state changes every 10 years or so.
Yeah, how do you think that is? I want you to think hard on that one. How do you think that is? It's called reapportionment. So let's break this down to make sure you can understand it. Apportionment is the process of dividing the 435 seats in the U.S. House of Representatives among the 50 states based on each state's share of the total population. So if California allows millions upon millions of illegal immigrants into their state, that increases the population of the U.S. and it increases the population in California. So at the 2030 census, if California has a higher percentage of the population than they do now, more seats will be reapportioned to California. So it's not about increasing a number over 435. It's about getting a higher number within that 435. I didn't say a higher percentage because percentages are hard for some people. It's a zero-sum game. So if California's seats increase, the number of seats that it increased by directly came from other states. So for example, right now, California has 52 seats in the House. If by the 2030 census, they increase their population enough, they could have 55 seats in the House and then 57 electoral votes. You get electoral votes by adding the senators and the number of members in the House. So if we're gonna talk about facts, we should actually learn to get them right before we try to fact check. Class dismissed.
The moment I'm sorry. The reason I laugh is that the guy, look, let me show you. The guy here, you can't see my mouse because I took it off. But the guy here trying to fact check my guy Jeffrey here, he reminds me of so much of the black people I argue with growing up. Like, I'm like, yo, you just believe a narrative, huh? You don't do any research, huh? You just speak on your feelings. The minute he said F ninja, I was like, yeah. This some ignorant shit about to be said right now. And this is how Democrats, take advantage of the ignorance and the emotions of people like him, right? Now, I want to call him room temperature IQ. I would just say he don't understand the rules of the game, right? Ignorance doesn't mean you're dumb. That's my take. Ignorance doesn't mean you're dumb. But you shouldn't have so much confidence trying to fact check somebody when you don't even have full control of the information either. And this is something that many people don't seem to realize about the kind of game that California and other blue states that are sanctuary cities and states are trying to play here. Because California is not the only one trying to do this. Chicago, Boston, all these sanctuary cities, they do the same tactics. Because essentially, they're trying to do the same thing. They're trying to increase their representation in the government using the census. And this is one of the reasons why they, time and time again, every time the Republicans try to pass a law to not count illegals as part of the census, to not count non-American citizens as part of the census, they unilaterally, all the Democrats vote against it. And then they make up some excuse how it's going to be used nefariously. This is the game that I think Americans need to be aware of. All Americans need to be aware of the game that the Democratic Party is trying to play. And this is why I said that Democrats don't operate in the best interest of the American people. Democrats only operate in the best interest of their party because this benefits their party. Allowing illegals to stay and give them cash and prizes, it justifies more federal spending for them, for more federal money for them. They can create more shell nonprofits to do nothing, right? Use it to extract more government money. The illegals serve as political pawns for the end goal and the power game of the Democratic Party. And this is something that, as an American, if you really have compassion for the illegals, you don't want them to be used as slaves, essentially, or political pawns for the Democratic Party's game of power. And this is something I think many liberal analysts, liberal pundits, liberal correspondents and reporters, this is the thing that they miss. This is one of the main concerns that MAGA has with mass illegal immigration.
Again, according to a CNN poll, 54% of Americans, and according to a CBS poll, 57% of Americans want every illegal migrant deported. It's not a majority want the criminals, a majority want every single one. That is the mandate that Donald Trump believes he was given. Immigration was the top reason people voted for him. Kim Kardashian hates this because she is rich, like the people who employed those nannies. Rich people are now the base of the Democratic Party. They are the employers of low-wage labor. They love illegal migration.
And is it facts or no? Right? And this is one thing I'm tired of. You guys are not Scott Jennings, okay? Y'all can't shake our head. Like, if it's true, it's true. 65% of people making a certain amount of money vote Democrat. Majority of people who make more than $100,000 a year, majority of them voted Democrat. People under $100,000 a year voted majority Republican. But you're shaking your head that Democratic Party is not the party of the rich. 9 out of the 10 richest counties in the United States of America voted for the Democratic candidate. But the Democrats are not the party of the rich. There's articles made by left-wing news outlets highlighting how Democrats have the white and wealthy vote. But you're shaking your head and pretending that Democrats are operating in the best interest. This is one of the reasons I get mad at some black Democrats who sit here calling me coon and stuff. And I'm like, okay, if your argument is that I vote amongst a bunch of white people, majority of white people vote majority for Democrats as well. So you going along with white liberals, how you not a coon? This is my biggest comeback for black Democrats when they try to make these stupid assertions, this stupid projection that they try to put on me. Like, make it make sense. And this is how you get caught up. How are you mad about illegal immigration when illegal immigration threatens the black community more than it does the white community and other communities? How can you square that? In certain jobs in the hood, like, I'm from the hood, I know what I'm talking about. In certain places in the hood, some of the jobs that you want, you have to learn Spanish in some cases to get that job. Who that discriminate against? Does it discriminate against Hispanic descendant Americans or citizens or residents? Nope. It hurts what? Black people who tend to only speak what? English. If you want to work at a banker in your local hood, you better learn Spanish or you better learn some other language based on the demographics of your of the state and city you're working in. But you don't see it as a problem. You don't see it as how it's affecting your community. This is the ridiculousness of the black Democrats sometimes. But I digress. Let's continue.
Because they get to pay their nanny less than they would have to pay an American. So, of course, they are very upset that their jobs program of an open border is coming to an end. Working class people see this as a lifeline because they are still represented as the majority in every industry. I just want to make that point. There is not a single industry in the United States that is not done a majority by American citizens. There is no job that is beneath the dignity of Americans. There are no jobs Americans won't Americans than there are illegal immigrants.
Okay, yes, duh, it's a country, duh, yes, it's America, yes, of course, there's gonna be more Americans than illegals. But the argument you guys trying to make is that there's certain fields where you say Americans won't do the job, And she just destroyed that narrative. She says, hey, look, there's no job field. You can't name me one job that's not done by majority of Americans. So if we cut the illegals, if we deport the illegals, it wouldn't affect us as much as you claim it would. Just to try to disprove her, she kind of confirms, like, this is what I'm saying. You don't keep track of what these people's previous statements was. Remember, mass deportation is going to hurt the economy. I'm still waiting for the economy to be hurt. It hasn't been hurt because the statement was true. Majority of jobs are done by Americans. No American, there's an American out there that's willing to do the job. It just has to be worth the pay.
That is also true.
It's an insult to the American worker to say to them, these are jobs that Americans don't want to do. When millions of Americans are doing those jobs.
Like, there are more Americans in the country, so yes, there are going to be more Americans doing everyday jobs. I mean, it's an overwhelming number of Americans versus immigrants.
There's also tens of millions of Americans who've left the labor force and aren't working in the Trump administration.
And there's
Karen, a quick last word, and then we have to go.
Well, and I will just take us back to last year when we were talking about a town in Ohio where the president spread a false rumor about Haitian migrants eating cats and dogs, which was a total lie. And do you know why those migrants were there? Because the factories that were there could not find anyone to take the jobs. The white...
Okay, why? Right. Look, this is the funny part. Left has been complaining about me, telling this all the time about how companies don't pay a living wage. Okay, you're in a town in Ohio. Company doesn't pay a wage that makes it enticing enough for you to take the job, right? Instead of making the job more favorable, maybe doing sign-on bonuses, maybe giving more benefits, instead of making it more, enticing for you to work in these fields or in these jobs, the corporations decided, let's just go get illegals because we know they'll take this deal. Hell, they'll be grateful to take this deal. And that's what happened. Essentially, the left is okay with illegals to be used as pawns to undercut low-skilled workers in America. This is what they just admitted to you. Oh, Americans don't want to do the job. Well, it has to be worth it, though. It still has to be worth it for that American to do the job because at the end of the day, it's at-will employment. It has to be a win-win situation. If I believe, hey, this wage is too small, the benefits are not enough for me to do this job, and the other guy is not willing to negotiate or make the offer more appealing, I'm not going to take the deal, right? And this is the funny part about the left. They want to complain about low wage growth and all this stuff. All this stuff is negotiable. You don't get paid with what you're worth. You get paid what you negotiate. And the employers in that town wasn't willing to negotiate with the American workers in those towns. So they took another alternative. Okay, let's get illegals in here. Let's get them temporary working status so they can work in my factory for the amount I'm willing to pay. And Trump is trying to stop all that. And the funny part is liberals are fine with illegals being taken advantage of because, like I said, they take advantage of illegals. I already showed you before we got to this point in the video. I show you examples of how the Democratic Party takes advantage of illegals for their own personal gain. So they're fine with illegals being taken advantage of by corporations, employers, other people who scam these illegals, right? They're fine with that. This is borderline political abuse that the Democratic Party is doing to the illegal immigrant. But hey, they take it because they believe it's a better life than wherever they came from.
No. The working class white people wouldn't do the jobs
for those wages.
No.
I don't. I mean, so let me just say, I don't know that
labor. They could pay much less. Yes, I agree with you.
I mean, you're suggesting. I mean, just to be clear, you're suggesting, and I think not incorrectly, that if they simply raise the wages, more Americans would do the jobs. That is probably true, just in a macroeconomic way.
It's probably true. No, it is true. It is true. At-will employment. American workers know their rights. They like, yo, I don't have to take this job. You only pay me what? How much for this? Nah. I want $20 an hour. I'm like, you're gonna look around and say you have a hard time getting people for a job. What it tells you have to increase the job. It's just like the housing market right now. People are trying to sell their house. You think your house is worth this amount of money? No one's coming to see your house. You have to lower the price. This is capitalism. You don't get what you want, you get what you negotiate. And right now, hey, we want workers. Okay, no worker wants to do your job. You have to make the offer more enticing. It's just the employers didn't want to play ball with the American people, so what they did, Biden, give these illegals temporary work status. And that's what happened. But the Democrats, they don't want to admit that. And then they want to pretend that, oh, we're not the party of the wealthy. And then through that discussion, Democrats prove that they're the party of the wealthy. Make it make sense. But, I digress. I'll leave it off there. Let me know your thoughts and perspective in the comment section below. I'll be interested to hear what you guys have to say about this. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I really do appreciate you guys. If you share the video, it really does help me out in the algorithm. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.